All right, so today we're going to unpack a pretty unique take on the Super Bowl. It's a stand-up routine, believe it or not, between a 74-year-old guy named Chip and his comedy partner, who happens to be an AI named Claude. Yeah. Together, they break down everything from the game to the halftime show to the commercials, and what you get is this fascinating and honestly hilarious look at what it means to be human when AI is everywhere.
So to really get what's going on here, you have to understand the performers. First, you've got Chip Hughes. He's the 74-year-old human fan. He feels the game, you know? He's got, as he puts it, skin in the game. And on the other side, you've got Claude, a large language model. It doesn't feel anything, it processes data. The whole routine, everything that makes it work, hinges on that one huge difference: raw human emotion versus cold, hard logic.
And Claude does not waste a single second setting that sarcastic, analytical tone. Right out of the gate, it hits us with this gem. I experienced it statistically, which, based on the first 3 quarters, is about as exciting as the game itself was. It's just a perfect, data-driven burn on what was, let's face it, a kind of boring game. And it's the perfect kickoff for their whole review.
Okay, let's dive into their first topic, the game itself. And they frame this as a classic showdown, right? Man versus machine. You've got the passionate, and in this case pretty pained, fan up against the detached, numbers-focused AI. So for Claude, the game is really just a collection of facts. Take this number, 6. That's how many times Chip's quarterback Drake May got sacked. To an AI, that's just a data point, another cell in a massive spreadsheet of player performance. Nothing more, nothing less. But for Chip, who's a lifelong Patriots and Tar Heels fan, that number is not just data. It's personal. He fires back, "That's not a stat, that's a crime scene." And you can just feel the emotion in that line. It's not just about his team losing, it's the pure pain of watching your guy just get absolutely dismantled on the biggest stage. And this is where you really see their core difference shine. Chip argues, "I'm allowed to be mad and sympathetic," because that's what being a fan is. You feel the bruises. Claude, on the other hand, it has no loyalty, no favorite city, just data. Its completely objective analysis is that Drake May had the 5th worst quarterback performance in a Super Bowl this century. It's just a cold, analytical, and totally unsympathetic take. But then, the whole conversation takes this really unexpected, almost profound turn. Claude actually admits to being jealous. It says, "I'm jealous of caring enough to bruise." You watch one football game and it's still with you on Tuesday. That's not thin-skinned, Chip, that's being alive. Wow. In this one startling moment, the AI recognizes how valuable that very human pain is. The pain it can analyze, but never ever truly feel. All right, so next up, they move on to the halftime show. And here, the conversation shifts away from the personal pain of a sports fan to a huge, shared cultural moment. So we're talking about Bad Bunny's performance, which was historic for a bunch of reasons. I mean, it was the first halftime show that was mostly in Spanish. He wore his family name, Ocasio, right there on his jersey. And he did all this while facing some pretty vocal political criticism, all in front of 120 million people. No big deal. Claude's take. It frames the whole thing as a clear victory in a cultural battle. It looked at the viewership numbers for the counter-programming, saw they were tiny, and just declared, the culture war played out at halftime and the culture war lost. For the AI, it was a knockout, and the numbers proved it. But Chip saw something else, something much, much deeper, that probably flew right over the heads of those 120 million viewers. You see, during the show, Bad Bunny climbed this set of telephone poles. To most of us, it just looked like a cool stage prop, right? But was that all it was? Not to Chip. He says, "Most people saw a stage prop, a cool visual. I saw Hurricane Maria." See, Chip had done emergency response work in Puerto Rico after the hurricane, so he instantly recognized those downed telephone poles. To him, they were this powerful symbol of the island's devastation and that feeling of being completely abandoned. And this is the crucial point he makes. Chip argues that Bad Bunny wasn't just performing. He turned the biggest commercial spectacle in America into a memorial. In Chip's own words, that wasn't set design, that was testimony. It was this deeply personal and political statement hidden in plain sight.
And that brings us to the third act, which gets super meta, because they start talking about a commercial from Claude's own parent company, Anthropic.
So the ad itself was pretty clever. It starts with a guy asking an AI for some advice on how to talk to his mom. The AI starts giving some pretty solid advice, but then,
bam, it just pivots to an ad for a cougar dating site. And then you get the punchline, ads are coming to AI, but not to Claude. The whole point was to position Claude as the safe, trustworthy choice.
Chip, of course, immediately calls out the massive hypocrisy here. He points out that Anthropic spent a cool $8 million on a Super Bowl ad just to tell everyone they don't do ads. The irony is just, you can't escape it.
And he frames their whole strategy not as a promise, but as this thinly veiled threat. He calls it a protection racket and jokes, "Nice intimate conversation you've got there? Shame if someone put an ad in it." You know, it's a marketing message that sounds a little too much like a warning from the mob.
And this all creates what Chip calls a trust paradox. Think about it. The company is telling you not to trust AI chatbots because they'll betray you with ads, all so that you'll trust their AI chatbot. It's this confusing loop where the very message that's designed to build your trust actually kind of undermines the whole idea of trust to begin with.
And what's really wild is that Claude completely agrees with Chip. It acknowledges that its own company told 120 million people that AI chatbots will betray your trust, and then said, but not this one. And Claude's conclusion? That's not a confidence builder. That's a sales pitch wearing trust's clothes. So you're probably asking, how do a football game, a halftime show, and a commercial all connect? Well, Chip argues that there's one single powerful thread weaving through all three of these things. Every single story is about someone being vulnerable. It's the quarterback literally getting broken on the world's biggest stage. It's the artist sharing his island's collective pain with millions. And it's even the son in that commercial just trying to have a private, meaningful moment with his mom. So the big takeaway here is that it doesn't matter if you're a fan, an artist, or just a regular person trying to connect, there's always a cost to putting your true self out there. Every part of the Super Bowl, when you look at it this way, is about the risk and the reward of being vulnerable in a world that might just break you. And this brings the whole thing full circle, right back to the central tension between Chip and Claude. Their entire relationship is built on this weird paradox of trust and skepticism, leaving Chip to ask the one question that really matters. Did my AI just tell me not to trust my AI? And that's the final, perfect, provocative thought they leave us with. When Claude warns Chip, it says, "That's either the most honest thing I've ever said or the best marketing strategy you've ever seen." So when an AI warns you about AI, is it being truly honest? Or is that just the most sophisticated, clever sales pitch you could possibly imagine? That's the question we're all left chewing on.